Hey there, guys. What's up? Derek from Bomb Socks here with another edition of Bomb Bites, feasting upon the words of Christ, one amazing bite at a time. So there's a word I want to focus on today, just for our little message here, and the word is worship. Now, worship, if you look it up, worship means it is an adoration or a reverence towards something, in particular towards something religious like God. And so worship has been an interesting thing in these chapters, these Alma chapter 32 through 35. In fact, it even dates back to Alma 31, where you've got these crazy Zoramites who, in their own kind of mixed up way, were worshiping God, or at least the God that they had created. They're getting up on their ramiumtum and they are showing worship to him. Granted, they're only doing it once a week and they're never talking about God again. And so that leads into chapter 32, where you've got this group of poor individuals who were trying to go worship, and yet the Zoramites were kicking them out, throwing dust in their face and complaining about them, their clothing, everything like that. And so Alma finds himself in a situation where he's teaching these people about worship. Now you get into chapter 33. He quotes two of my favorite Old Testament prophets, these two guys right here, which again, we know, I wish we knew more about them. You've got Zenos and Zenic, or Zenic, however you say his name right there. But these two guys are rock stars. I would love to know more about them. They both were bold witnesses of Jesus Christ, and both of them talks about how they were slain because of their bold witness. I really wish we knew more about these two, but we just don't. So we go with what we have in the Book of Mormon, which is quite a bit, actually. Zenos had the allegory of the olive tree way back in Jacob chapter 5. And so there's other stuff throughout the Book of Mormon weaved in that these two were on the brass plates. And so we know a little bit about them. So you go into chapter 33, and especially starting in verse number 2. Now, verse number 2 says, "And Alma said unto them, Behold, ye have said that ye could not worship your God, because you're cast out of your synagogues. But behold, I say unto you, if ye suppose that ye cannot worship God, you do greatly err, and ye ought to search the scriptures. If ye suppose that they have taught you this, ye do not understand them." And so he goes on and he talks about Zenic and Zenic and how their whole, it's just this whole chapter is about worship. And it talks about even prayer or worship. He even uses those words interchangeably. So as you're reading this, you could even read a little bit about into prayer into this, because prayer is definitely a form of worship. So what I would invite you to do, it's actually a pretty quick read. Take a minute, and you can do it as an individual, you can do it as a family. Take a minute and just roll through there and see what you learn about the idea of worship. And then I'm just going to share with you one quick thing, and we'll call it good. Okay, so one word that I noticed as I was reading that was mentioned over and over again is the word merciful. In fact, I think I saw it 7 or 8 times in this chapter. One of them I thought was super cool was verse number 11, where it says, "And thou didst hear me because of mine afflictions and my sincerity, and it is because of thy Son." That's another phrase you see quite a bit in these verses. "That thou hast been thus merciful unto me. Therefore I will cry unto thee in all mine afflictions. For in thee is my joy. For thou hast turned thy judgments away from me because of thy Son." I love that. So because of Jesus Christ, the Lord has been extremely merciful unto us. I love going all the way back to 1 Nephi chapter 1, the very beginning of the Book of Mormon. And I mentioned this in a previous episode, that Nephi mentioned in verse 20 how "I will show unto you that the tender mercies of the Lord are over all of his children, even unto the power of deliverance." Another interesting verse, you go down to verse number 16, and it talks about how, "For behold, he saith, Thou art angry, O Lord, with this people, because they will not understand thy mercies." That's an interesting kind of dichotomy to think about in your mind. You're angry because they won't understand your mercy, which thou hast bestowed upon them because of thy Son. Now, I don't picture God being angry because we don't understand his mercy, but I really believe that we are not as kind to ourselves, nor are we as kind to others, and as merciful as the Lord would like us to be. His mercies are more boundless than we will ever understand. Even to those who have been just flat out mean, rebellious to his commandments right there, his mercy is greater than we will ever understand. Boundless, I believe, is what his mercy is right there. Do not ever put limits on what the mercies of God can do for someone. So as I'm talking about this idea of worshiping, I want to refer back to something. Actually, a little shout out to one of my Facebook friends. She posted something yesterday that I thought was so good. Let me show you what she said. She said, "Man, I couldn't believe how relevant these verses are for 2020 Corona. Cast out of your synagogues." Now, she's referring back to Alma chapter 32 here, but I think this ties nicely together. I love how Alma asks if the only place we can worship is at church and only once a week. And maybe in verse 12, he's implying that wisdom is gained when we learn how to worship God every day and everywhere, whether it's in our closets, whether it's in the wilderness, whether it's in your home, whatever it is right there. I know that the corona has humbled me in many aspects. Things I need to admit to myself, things I need to change. I'm sure I will continue to see more. I hope I do. It is well. And I thought this is cool, just referring to that verse 12 right there. The church and temple worship has been canceled, as difficult as it's been. It has been necessary. Have I resisted the necessary wisdom and humbling God needs me to reach? I love the Book of Mormon and God's tailoring it to these last days so that we don't have to be in the dark or to be afraid. So lucky. The scriptures are the best. So referring back to Alma chapter 33, verse 2, it's like if you're understanding the scriptures as to say you can only worship in church once a week, sitting in a chapel, in pews, whatever the situation is right now. I know some of you have not even had a chance to go back to church yet, and some of you are going back on a limited basis. Please do not think that is the only way that you can worship. Worship should be an everyday thing. We should find a daily way to commune with God, to take time to be holy, which is one of my favorite songs from the Tabernacle Choir. If we can find a way to just every day to show our reverence to God. It doesn't have to be a lengthy thing, but to every day acknowledge him. And he doesn't need our worship, but we need to be able to worship him and show our love to him and acknowledge him. And I love that message right there. So don't think you have to go to church every Sunday to worship. Now, I'm not discounting the importance of going to church. Please do not misunderstand me there. There is power in that, and there is necessary. And there is going to be a time where we will be back to normal. Prophets have said that way too many times in the last little bit for me to ignore that counsel. Yeah, we'll be able to go back and it will be fine. However, in the meantime, we've got to find a way to really enhance our worship. And I think things like Come Follow Me, whatever way you're choosing to study it, make sure that it is something that you can do to worship God and find a way to daily show him your reverence. So anyway, I hope that message helps you out today. And you guys are great. Continue to worship God and show him that you love him. Anyway, I hope that message helps you out. You guys are awesome. Have an amazing day, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.